Hello and welcome to Med Talks with Dr. Moin. Today we have Dr. Rangareddy with us. Dr. Rangareddy is President, Infection Control Academy, and he is also an honorary professor in Hyderabad Central University. Sir, welcome to our studio. Thank you for giving your valuable time to us.
Thank you very much, Dr. Moin. It is a great pleasure. In fact, I should commend all the good work you guys have been doing.
We all know that time has come to a point where everything came to standstill. Everybody was in a situation where they did not know what to do with the name COVID. When it was sounding COVID from one side, they used to run to the other side of the world to protect themselves and to protect their loved ones. And another biggest thing was like they had no 100% of knowledge how to tackle this disease and how to prevent it. Sir, could you just enlighten us about COVID?
COVID is a disease which is caused by the nCoV-2 virus. It is not that, coronavirus is something, which has suddenly dropped from the heaven or something like that.
Right.
Coronaviruses as a group had been in circulation for ages. Only the thing is, these coronaviruses, especially the beta coronaviruses,
Right.
to which nCoV belongs to, or the COVID-19 disease, the causating agent is, this is something, which is genetically so much varied from the earlier ones.
Okay.
It has started creating the outbreaks in the population.
Okay.
We all know that it has started in Wuhan city in China. Where probably the kind of modified coronavirus
Okay.
had jumped from animal into the human beings.
Okay.
These viruses probably would have jumped from pangolins. Pangolins are
Right.
one kind of animals, which are generally not eaten by most of the
Humans.
most of the people in the world, but the Chinese have a special liking for that kind
Okay.
of meat, and there are wet markets in Wuhan where they have kind of isolated this virus.
Okay.
And just going and rewinding back to something like 2000s or 1990s, it is not the first time with the coronaviruses we have a public health emergency of international concern.
Okay.
On two earlier occasions, we already had SARS and MERS.
Right.
These are the two major epidemics in 20th century, right? Apart from Ebola, which still is going on as a story,
Right.
which world has witnessed because of the zoonotic infections. So the COVID-19 has brought on to the world stage the kind of dangers what we can have with the zoonotic infections.
Right.
World Health Organization and also all those who are dealing with infectious diseases had been warning the world leaders and also generally all the public that at some point in time we are going to have a major outbreak which may actually evolve into a pandemic. Had been these warning signals.
So this was anticipated that?
Absolutely. I think, this was anticipated because, if you look at, go back to the World Health Organization and also the various infectious disease specialists, including us.
Okay.
For example, in 2016, when we have started this organization called as Infection Control Academy of India to create the capacity of infection preventionists who are supposed to be dealing with these kind of infections and also preparing the populations and also the country to deal with these kind of public health emergencies.
Okay.
We found a lukewarm response saying that, what are you talking about, doctor? There are so many other things, which we had to deal with. For example, obesity is a problem. Diabetes is a problem.
Coronary artery
Cancer
disease.
is a problem. What are you talking about? So, from that situation, I think, we have evolved over a period of time. We understood that, these are going to be a problem. And this has been, warning signals were there. But the world did not pick up and take them seriously.
The world was not prepared.
Absolutely.
even after the SARS and the event of MERS and all.
Absolutely.
So,
So
all of a sudden they have bang bang.
it is not really, something which has come very surprisingly, right? This ought to be there. And going ahead also, we are going to have the zoonotic infections as a major threat to the humanity.
Okay.
Unless we are going to have a holistic view about the human health, um, and its interdependence with animal health and also environment. If we are not going to understand this big picture, we are time and again we are going to go into these problems. We may or we may not, or it may take some time actually to come out of the current COVID-19 problem. But even after we come, if we are not going to learn the lessons
Right.
and go back into the origins of this problem, then this is going to be a frequent occurrence, and the world is going to be disrupted. And in the beginning you have said the world has come to a halt. It is really come to a halt, which has got socio-economic, political, and all kinds of consequences.
Right.
So we need to, I think, learn a lot from COVID-19. In fact, I think we should thank COVID-19 to give such a shock, where finally everybody, starting from politicians and the big leaders to the common man, is realizing that importance of the public health, importance of One Health, that is an interface or the balance between the human health, animal health, and the environment.
Right.
Where if we are going to provoke the environment, it is going to give us the trouble. We need to understand this very, very clearly, and we should protect our environment. We should protect actually wildlife, not cutting all these trees, etc., etc. All these things have to come very
Sir, no
clearly.
matter how human beings treated the wildlife, sir, it was some time ago it was chimpanzee, and later on a camel came in. With camel
Yes.
they had all that MERS. Now these pangolins. And what is next, sir?
What is next is, there could be again another coronavirus variant which can probably strike us, maybe from beta group or some other group,
Okay.
right? We don't know. It could be Nipah virus, right,
Okay.
which is already in circulation, which is creating outbreaks from some time to time. It could be some others, that's why we call it as a disease X or infection X.
We don't know.
We don't know
Right.
where it is going to come from.
Right.
The best what we can do as a human race is to be prepared.
Right.
To be prepared in a way that, when it is going to finally strike us, that disease X or infection X,
Okay.
we should have enough of infrastructure, enough of human resources, enough of everything,
Okay.
to effectively deal with without much panic,
Okay.
without loss of human life. That is the most important thing.
Okay. Sir, we were talking about various variants of this coronavirus. Now, we have another threat. The WHO has detected Omicron and it is spreading in all directions. So, what is Omicron and how to handle it?
Omicron is a name which is derived from a Greek alphabet.
Okay.
Earlier, when COVID-19 has started, we used to have very random numbers which used to be given.
Okay.
Like, the recent one, which is B.1.1.5,
Right, right.
529, right? So it is very complicated and it is very difficult actually to keep track of such digits and numbers. So, and hence World Health Organization has gone into a new system of naming the variants
Okay.
by a certain Greek alphabet.
Okay.
Greek language has got
Right.
24 alphabets. It starts with alpha,
Alpha,
and
then beta, gamma,
Absolutely.
delta. It is similar to ABCD.
absolutely,
Right.
absolutely. So we are at a stage where now we have come into Omicron,
Oh my God.
right? This is Omicron. That is how in Greek they spell it,
Okay.
right? Prior to that was Delta. right,
Okay.
which was prevalent. In between, there are two other alphabets which are called as a Nu and also Xi.
Okay.
For some reasons, World Health
They have
Organization
skipped
has
skipped those.
skipped those and moved into directly Omicron. The people are going to be aware but not panicked, right?
Okay.
Because there are, two things, what people definitely need to know about is that COVID-19 definitely is a dangerous kind of infection. There is no
Right.
doubt in that. I don't want to unnecessarily give a false information.
Right.
But with today's ability of healthcare systems and also the doctors, we know enough how to deal with in case somebody is going to be infected.
Okay.
So the most important thing what the people had to do is to stay away from this disease.
Right.
To ensure that they are going to, at a personal level and at a family level, at a community level,
Right.
they are going to take all those precautions which are in their control.
Right.
What is in people's control is to wear a mask properly,
Right.
to keep a distance from the crowds,
Right.
ensure that you are going to avoid the crowds, wash your hands frequently,
Right.
stay in ventilated places
Mhm.
where there is abundance of natural ventilation, and last but not the least is go
The
for
vaccine?
vaccination.
Right.
Vaccination, the first dose and the second dose. Don't now even think about boosters. When the time comes, the government will tell, the public health will tell whether there is a need for booster or not. Till then, please follow the guidelines which are very rationally, with lot of science, with lot of preparation, the government and organizations have prepared.
Right.
I will once again repeat it. Think always about 3 W's and 2 V's. 3 W's are wear your mask properly, watch your distance, wash your hands, and 2 V's are go
First,
into
vaccine.
right kind of ventilated places,
Mhm.
and 2 vaccination.
Vaccination.
Right? So if you are going to keep these things in your mind and you are going to follow them without any deviation, 99% there is a assurance that you or your family or the dear ones are not going to suffer from this disease.
Was an amazing information. Sir, this Omicron, which has evolved right now, sir, is it very different from Delta, or is it going to be more dangerous than Delta, or is it going to bring a third wave, which we haven't seen?
Still, there are a lot of missing kind of gaps which need to be filled with the information.
Right.
We need more data. We need more information, which had to come from the CITEX. CITEX means where the disease or that particular variant has been observed.
Okay.
That is Botswana and South Africa and Hong Kong. These are the 3 countries where initially
It was found.
it was found
Isolated.
in Botswana. Then immediately it was spreading into 3 countries. Now, as we are talking now, it is already in 14 countries. So we need from ground X more and
Right.
more information about the diagnosis, about the symptoms, about the treatment, how the people are reacting to the treatment which is currently available, and what is the vaccination status.
Right.
Means whether the current vaccines are helping or this particular variant is evading. So just I wanted to take you back a little on
Okay.
different variants which we had, like nowadays I think everybody knows there is something called as VOI and VOC, that is why variant of interest and variant of concern.
Right.
Variant of interest is when we identify a variant and we are not too sure that how it is going to impact. Variant of concern is when we see a potential that either transmission is going to be higher, whether the disease is going to be kind of severe, or it is going to evade the current immunity developed either through the vaccination or through the natural infection. Okay. So if you see one of these major things happening, then a label is given which is called as variant of concern. Okay. That is how this classification is. I thought just
Yeah,
for the
sir,
sake.
this is really
So,
wonderful. We have information and we are really concerned. But sir, one little concern, sir, in our country we are not doing any genomic sequencing and all. How do we know that which variant is in our country? Are we sure that this virus has not landed in our country yet?
till we have a proof from the laboratory confirming that this variant is in India, anything else is going to be only a speculation, right? So, and when you had to identify a new variant, you need to do the genomic sequencing,
Okay.
which takes some time, right?
Right.
So, mostly, the new variant may emerge from
Right.
the people, who have traveled abroad to these places where the virus is found, and they would have come to India. So there are certain cases, where the people who have traveled from abroad
Right.
and landed in India, they were found with the positive report. But after finding the positive report, you need to further send these samples to the genomic sequencing labs.
Which we are not doing, sir. We are hardly doing that.
Well, I don't think that is absolutely true. Yes, at the beginning of the pandemic,
Sir,
we had-
even no, hardly anybody is just relying on RT-PCR, and RT-PCR sometimes gives false positive, false negative. Who is doing genomic sequencing, sir?
Well, there are now in India about 18 organizations who have come and formed a consortium called as INSACO.
Okay.
That, when we are talking about the city where we are sitting now, Hyderabad, CCMB is one of those consortium members,
Right.
who are doing the genomic sequencing.
Okay.
And National Institute of Virology is another, which is very big organization, very reputable international organization, which also is part of this consortium. As a clinician and as a general public, probably you would not see what is happening in the background, because not every sample will go for genomic sequencing, because it is an expensive, time-consuming process.
Right.
So whatever limited bandwidth of testing capacity we have, we had to protect it.
Okay.
And hence, there is a protocol on sampling for genomic sequencing.
Okay.
Not every sample is going to be randomly picked.
True.
So, in the case of Omicron, for example, how the samples are going to be picked up is, if with current RT-PCR, there are 3 legs to that, as you know.
Right.
If you are going to at a S level, it is not going to be absent or the failure in the system. Then there is a concern, probably it could be Omicron.
Okay.
Because there is a failure of S
Okay.
in RT-PCR test for Omicron variant. That is what is observed in South Africa.
Okay.
That is our primary kind of diagnostic measure,
Okay.
where it is a trigger for us to send such samples to the Institute of Virology or CCMB for further testing and genomic sequencing to confirm that it is a Omicron variant. So that is how we are going to identify which variant is that, and why it is required is, depending on which variant is prevalent, accordingly the measures have to be taken.
Okay.
Earlier you asked a question which I could not completely answer, that what is the difference between the earlier ones and the current one. See, if you look at the past, there were 2 variants which have really scared us.
Right.
One variant was beta variant.
Right.
The second was delta.
Delta.
Not every mutation is dangerous.
Right.
Not every variant is very dangerous. There are some which have got the ability to really go all over the world very quickly, and cause actually filling up the hospitals with the severely infected patients. That is what is our worry. Our worry is actually not the infection itself. Infection, if it is going to be mild to moderate, it can be managed at homes, in a distant mode and all that stuff. The severity of infection, where the people would need, let's say, hospitalization, where the people would need intensive care. That is what is the problem.
Exactly.
Because intensive care capacity in any country is very limited, right?
Yeah.
And if there is going to be a sudden spurt of all these patients who would require that kind of hospitalization, that is where the whole healthcare system is going to be overwhelmed,
Right.
and the healthcare professionals will be overwhelmed. That is
Right.
what is the problem.
The
So
entire world was overburdened by the number of infections surged
absolutely,
at a time, and where there were no beds. Even in the Western world, the patients were laid in the corridors and they were treated. In our country, I can't say, there were very few hospitals who had ventilators, so we were not prepared, very well prepared. But are we prepared now, sir, to
yeah.
handle any such situation?
Well, I think Omicron doesn't seem to be a very dangerous variant in terms of actually surge in number of patients who would require hospitalization or the intensive care. It doesn't look like.
Okay.
I hope I am right. Right. Uh, why we are saying that is, despite of the fact that it has got 50 different mutations, and
Right.
30 out of these 50 are happening at a spike level.
Right.
But still, the initial reports what are coming from South Africa is that most of the patients where they have found the Omicron variant looks to be very mild patients.
Okay.
Means with very mild kind of symptoms, and most of them are not in need of hospitalization. That is something which is a very encouraging news.
Okay.
But we would need some more time in order to confirm or deny this. Okay. That is one.
Right.
But at the same time, when we talk about the concerns, what are the concerns? If you look at the beta virus, which has really shaken us initially,
Right.
was mostly dangerous because it was evading the immunity.
Right.
Means once you have the infection, it is not guaranteeing you that you would not have the second infection.
Right.
Because usually how it happens is, when you have a natural infection, your immunity already has memory.
Right.
When second time there is an attack, they will grasp and
Right.
they will quickly get you kill those intruders.
Right.
And get you the relief. That is how it happens.
Right.
But beta variant, what has happened is, most of the times the second time reinfection was happening with the same variant. Okay, that was the problem. When it comes to the most recent one, which has shaken us again with a very quick kind of spread across
Right.
the world, was the Delta variant.
Right.
The Delta had both in immune evasion and also very high transmission rate.
Okay.
Right. That is why it was a concern. But when it comes to the current variant, right, the hypothesis what we can make because of the mutations, I don't want to give all those numbers and confuse, but these mutations, 50 odd, what we are talking about, when we are going to decode them and overimpose onto the same mutations what has happened in the beta and delta, probably there could be immune evasion on one side. That means probably the current vaccines may not work, right? And second thing is the transmission rates, because their ability to latch on to our human cells is much higher.
Okay.
Right. So that gives us actually a reason of worry that it might actually be very highly transmissible. Right?
Sir, the previous episode of Delta, the memory, whichever the previously exposed patients to Delta has that memory in their immunity, is this going to be protective somewhere against this Omicron?
Definitely it is to some extent, but what extent we need to still evaluate. Because the virus is the same family, same group. It is only that it has
taken some mutations.
So some basic genetic material remains the same.
Okay.
And hence definitely there is a level of protection.
Okay.
That is what also gives us enough optimism that probably the current vaccines may even work on Delta and Omicron also.
Okay.
Right. So that way, yes, there is a possibility that the immunity which was developed through the natural infection with Delta virus may also have some kind of protective effect for Omicron also.
Sir, I have one question for you. Immunity developed from this vaccine, immunity developed from this exposure to the previous virus. So, which is greater and which lasts longer?
Natural infection would give a long lasting
Okay.
kind of immunity than your other kind of interventions,
Right.
including vaccines, right? So that is how it is. I think vaccines today, a array of them, right, which are available in various part of the world based on various technologies like
Right.
mRNA,
Yeah.
which is the very latest one,
Right.
right? You have got vector vaccines,
Right.
you have got inactivated
Right.
virus vaccines, you have DNA vaccines, all kinds of vaccines, complete rainbow of technologies, available today.
Yeah.
But at the same time, we just need to see how and which one is going to greatly protect
Right.
against spectrum of variants.
Right.
And this is one suggestion which I had been giving to all the country and also to the vaccine manufacturers is that companies should, like flu vaccine, that you have got quadrivalent vaccine.
Right.
That means they take 4 different variants and put into
Put
one
it to
vaccine,
one max.
right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Quadrivalent, that is
Right.
called as. Likewise, probably we had to look at even COVID-19 vaccines, putting probably 3-4 major variants, so that the protection from these vaccines is going to be higher,
Okay.
so that we can protect our populations better, probably.
Okay. For our viewers to know, there are some myths about this vaccine. Which company, first dose, second dose, and the booster dose. Can you just quickly tell our viewers, like, what is the real guidelines and what is your advice?
My advice to all your esteemed viewers is that don't worry about the brands. Don't worry about the technologies. There are people who are supposed to be evaluating these vaccines, both in terms of efficacy and also the safety. That is your drug authorities.
Right.
They have evaluated both the efficacy and the safety, and then only these products have come into the market. And hence, you don't need to worry about it. Whatever vaccine which is available in your nearest center, in the nearest possible time, please ensure that you are going to get vaccinated. You are definitely going to have that protection, number 1. Number 2, as far as the boosters are concerned, it is still a debatable question whether the populations would require a booster in order to protect themselves or not. I think currently there are multiple studies which are going on to check whether the population would need the boosters or not. So you do not worry about the boosters at the moment. You worry about what is in your control, that is all the 3 W's and 2 V's, and stay safe and stay protected.
Thank you so much, sir, for visiting our facility and talking to our viewers. So now we have a good shield around us. That is what we call is a shield of information. Dr. Rangareddy has given us a big gala information with which you can just protect yourself and your loved ones. So as he said, those 3 W's and 2 V's are going to protect all of us. Stay safe and take care of yourself. Thank you all for watching us. Welcome to Med Talks with Dr. Moin.